Hey guys, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We are so grateful to be here once again. Um, I'm sorry, you guys. If I keep looking up, it's because I have this. So we had some technical difficulties today. And so I am streaming from my phone when usually I am using my laptop, but I believe my camera has gone out on my laptop, so go figure. But you know what? It does not stop anything. So let's go ahead and get started, you guys. I am Tamara Johnson. I'm the CEO. I am the creator of this show. Let's be clear. I am the creator of Make It Rise. RISE is an acronym for Rebuild Intentionally and Strategically for Effectiveness. And my vision, my mission, my goal is to show and share the true and original design for marriage. You know, sometimes we create our own definition as a result of, experience. Experience will taint or give us, I'm not even going to say taint, but it will give us a different lens on just things in life in general. And so I use this platform as another vehicle to show what God's true design for marriage is. And so what I've done is I've used many different series. Like today, the series we are on is the Vow series. And I've had different couples and wives or husbands that have come on and talked about a specific line in the vow. And tonight we have Miss Elizabeth Cooper, who is coming to talk to us about through sickness and in health. And I personally believe that, I think that all of the lines, the vow itself, I think we never really consider the cost when we go into marriage or before going into marriage and saying, I do. We don't consider the cost. We don't consider the flip side of the happy, the joy, the love that we take with us when we go to the altar. But here's the thing, there's a possibility. So do we prepare for the possibilities or do we only prepare for the good, right? Do we only prepare for health? Do we only prepare for having an abundance of money? Do we only prepare for getting along, right? So I am a firm believer that premarital counseling is necessary. And it's only necessary when we are allowing ourselves to go to someone, a counselor, or someone who is going to give us the unadulterated truth, someone that is going to give us the highs and the lows, someone that is going to ask us the what ifs, someone that is going to say, how do you feel about this, and be honest about it. And not saying that we can prepare, not saying that we can pinpoint what we will actually go through in the marriage, but it give us an idea of what we can possibly go through. And then if and when we reach that thing in the marriage, we will already be aware of, right? We'll be aware of some of the things that the conversation we've had, the preparation we've done, so that we can deal with it and get through it. So tonight, again, like I said, my guest, she's going to come on and talk to us about her true and authentic story about through sickness and in health. Her name is Elizabeth Cooper, and I am going to bring her in right now, you guys. So stand by. Hey, love.
How you doing, Tam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So, as I always say, whenever you assist me with something or you give me some information, I want to say thank you. Tonight's show. Thank you for saying yes. And as I said earlier, you aren't saying yes to me. You aren't saying yes to me. You're saying yes to God. You're saying yes to the commitment that you made. And I guess you'll tell us how long you've been married, but you're saying yes to the commitment that you made that many years ago. And so that's to be commended. That's to be, recognized, because it is so easy for us to throw in the towel. It is so easy for us to say, I don't want to do it anymore, right? Because it's common. Many times we do the common thing and not necessarily the godly thing or the thing that we said I do to. And so, again, I say thank you for coming on and being transparent, being available to share your story. And so, before I go any further, please introduce yourself. Let the people know how many years you've been married and just a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, as Tam shared, my birth name is Elizabeth, but I do go by Lisa. So everyone who knows me calls me Lisa. I've been married for 30 years. I was married in 1991, February, uh, in a beautiful ceremony in Linwood, California. And so my life has taken, twists and turns. So I've did a little this, a little that. Predominantly, I have a background in childcare, early child care education. I currently work at a university, and I am an assistant pastor um, for a local church here in Los Angeles. And I'm just here to make it rise.
Yes, I love it. I love that. Well, I thank you for being here to make it rise. And for those of you who do not know what RISE stands for, it is an acronym for rebuild intentionally, strategically for effectiveness. Rebuild intentionally and strategically for effectiveness. And I think it's so important for us to just use those words while we're in marriage. We have to build and continue to build and rebuild because there are going to be some things in our marriage that is torn down. There's going to be some things about us as individuals, right? And we know that it takes us being a whole, happy, healthy, and whole individual before or so that the marriage can be effective. And so then we have to be intentional about that thing. Get up every morning and remember why you said I do. Or remember what you said I do to, right? And then we have to have a plan. We have to strategize. We have to sit down. We have to write the vision to make it plain with our spouse and say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is the goal. This is what I think how we can get there, right? Mm-hmm. And then when we do all of those things, we will rebuild, be intentional, strategize, then we can be effective in the marriage. And so again, I say thank you. 30 years of marriage is not anything to play with, okay? I'm certain that there are many things that you have encountered, not only the through sickness and in health portion, but as because that is the topic for tonight, I just want us to kind of dig into that, dive into that. A few years back, and I was it 2016 that you came?
So
2016. So 2016, you guys, I did an in-person workshop, and it was called The Veil and the Vow. And she was my speaker for this same specific line through sickness and in health. And so I know what you shared at that time, but if you don't mind, can you share a little bit about that? I just want to talk about how that gets real, because I don't think we consider the cost when we say I do, or before we say I do. We don't consider the cost. We're so happy because of the wedding. We prepare for the wedding, but we don't really prepare for the marriage. We prepare for the hiccups in the wedding. Listen, we'll say in the event this food doesn't taste right, we are going to have this caterer. Or we'll say in the event the ring bearer won't walk down the aisle, then we'll have this person step in. So we prepare for the hiccups in the wedding, but we don't prepare for the hiccups or the things that may go awry in the marriage. So if you would just share with us a little bit about that story of yours through sickness and in health.
So I'm just sharing a little bit of where I was then and where I am now. I shared with the ladies on that day how my husband has always been an athletic person. In fact, the job that he worked at the time, he was a truck driver, so he had to do a lot of moving around. And as Tam already shared, when we go into our vows, we always think that it's going to be roses every day. And so, we've had children, and we came to a place where uh, my husband started experiencing some health issues. Now, I also had some health issues as well. Um, and before he was sick, I had experienced a bad bout of sciatica. And I want to tell you, my husband was a champ. He was there for me. And so my story, it kind of, I won't say I wasn't there, but my husband started experiencing some health issues. and some things with his legs and his body. He started having some severe issues with gout. Um, After sharing this, or maybe just before sharing this, my husband had a stroke.
Mm.
And one of the things I remember my husband saying is he never thought his body would betray him because he did not do drugs. He doesn't drink. And
Right.
so, like I said, he's always been in good condition. And so during these trying times, and we're still kind of dealing with some of the health issues, um, I shared with the ladies that day. I was there, but I was asked what was my emotional truth. To me, I know I was disappointed, and I was feeling angry, and I was feeling, I don't know, let down. And with sickness, it's who do you blame when someone gets sick?
Right.
And I wanted to blame the person, and I realized during that conference I had a moment where I came to myself and I realized I could do better.
Mm.
I could do better. And
Wow.
so that's a little bit of my story as far as the sickness and in health. We have our health now. It's not where it needs to be, and it is going to gradually, I think, get to where it needs to be. Things have slowed down, especially since my husband experienced the stroke. Um, and again, the doctors are baffled because this is a man, he's a black man who doesn't have high blood pressure, he doesn't have heart congestion issues. They're not quite sure even what caused the stroke. And
Wow.
so, me standing with him, I would say I was standing with him, but there was a lot going on in my mind, a lot of personal uh, feelings like, this should be the best time of our life. We're getting ready to retire,
Yeah.
and now this.
Wow. Wow. You know what? So I you said a lot. But one thing, well, there's a lot that stood out for me, but one thing that really stood out for me is that you said I'm standing, but there's still some disappointment because the expectation was at this time of our lives, we should be living it to the fullest. You have children, correct?
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
have children. The children are, they're of age. They can do their thing, right? So we should be enjoying ourselves.
Hmm.
But this experience of ours, and that goes back to me saying, who actually considered the cost of the entire vow? Who considered the cost? Because if we went in saying, but in about 30 years, he or she is going to experience this, and I know I won't want to deal with that, we will probably never be married. If we went
Hmm.
in knowing what the downside of marriage was going to be in our particular marriage, because see, here's the thing, we're given a lot of what ifs, we're given a lot of maybes, we're given a lot of possibilities from other people's experiences, but we never look in the mirror and say, that too can be me, that too can
Right.
be us.
Hmm.
And so, wanting, of course, to have a healthy spouse so that you can travel, so that you can do whatever it is that you planned on doing, right?
Hmm.
It can bring about some disappointment. And so, I appreciate you being honest. You're not saying, I'm here. I stood and I was there and I was ready and I was willing and I was able and I was full of joy and happiness that I could. No, I stood there because I said I do. I stood there because I am committed to the commitment. But
Hmm.
being committed to the commitment doesn't dictate your emotions. It
Right.
doesn't dictate how you feel about what you have to do, right?
Hmm.
So there's many times in our marriage, in your marriage, where God, especially if you're a believer, God tell you to do something, and sometimes, especially women, be quiet, right? And we're like, but I just need to say this. But if we are obedient, right, the thing that's on the other side of that door, because I always say that obedience is a key. It's just like the key that you use to get inside of your home or inside of your car. And we've been given the key to something, that means we've been given access,
That's right.
right? You don't just walk down the street and give anyone the key to your car or the key to your home,
Right.
because not everyone can have access to those spaces and places of your life, right? But God has given us access to a happy marriage, to a healthy marriage, to a wealthy marriage, and not on the physical, but in the
Right.
spiritual. He's given us the keys to all of these things in our marriage. And sometimes we are very, we're in a box. We put ourselves in a box and we say, this is what it should be. This is what I expected, right? And then we begin to doubt God, but then we begin to get upset, with our spouse. So did you have premarital counseling before you got married?
We did not. We did not. Like I said, we got married in 1991, and although I'm sure there was a lot of pastors that were probably doing this, not we had a dynamic pastor at the time who has gone on to be with the Lord. However, I don't think a lot of, and I'll say African American churches at the time had the counseling available like they might have now. So no, we did not have premarital counseling.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. When I was married, when I got married, my father married me. He was a pastor, and not once did he mention premarital counseling. Not once did he say, we need to sit down and we need to go through these steps. And and my pastor now is pro premarital counseling. Like, he will not marry you, because
Right.
here's the thing. If I am going to marry you, I want to make sure that I am doing my part. I am pouring into you. I am giving you the unadulterated, right? I'm letting you know what the possibilities are when you step into this marriage. All right. And then I want to let you know what the Bible say marriage is, right? Versus what the words say marriage is, or what you think it is, because what we saw in the homes is what we define as marriage, or what we read or what we hear, is what
Right.
we define as marriage. So how important now, today, 30 years later, how important do you think premarital counseling is?
I think it is important. I think it is good to have the conversation. I have a daughter, and I have two sons and a daughter,
Mhm.
and I guess I've seen to stress it more with my daughter, but I do say that it's necessary to know each other beyond what you're seeing on a physical, and maybe just at a glimpse, because you're not. Some people, well, I teach, that marriage should, living together and things like that should come after marriage.
Mhm.
So you're getting a glimpse of someone, and I think Kirk Franklin said in a book that he wrote, called The Blueprint or something like that. He said that, everything really before you say I do is basically it's practicing. It's that picture perfect world that, like you've already described, that you think it's going to be. So with counseling, it's not to pop the bubble,
Right.
but it's to make that bubble more uh, durable. And I think that I thank God that I had parents that I could see in the home, and
Yeah.
so I won't say it was perfect,
Right.
but at least I had parents that were together until one left. One passed away. A lot of people don't have that, and
Yeah.
so as you said, I picked up my experiences from that. He comes with his experiences.
Right.
But one thing I did know, my father, the last year of his life, he spent in a home, and my mother visited him every day.
Wow.
My mom made sure he had what he needed, and he could not be in the home because of my dad being a double amputee and being a diabetic. So I saw what it meant for someone to take care of someone that was sick, and
Yeah.
not just push them to the curb and say, "You're over there. I'm not coming to see about you." I are out of sight, out of mind. I didn't. I was able to have an example of what that kind of commitment and love look like.
Yeah, it's so funny, because in hindsight, we can say that, God, he's not going to put us in positions that he has not prepared us for, right?
Mhm.
Everything that we need is in us or right at our fingertips. And when I say right at our fingertips, I think about our experiences. And if we would only learn from the experiences, if we would only take from it what we can use in our own personal lives and let go of the things that we can't, because some things we shouldn't take with us, right? Some things
Right.
we see happening in the home or in other marriages, that we shouldn't, it's not for us, because although marriage has its own foundational definition per God, we go back to Genesis, God has his own, we have our own foundation of what marriage is. We also have to understand that each home has to pre-select what works for them, right?
Mhm.
So I can't say that when my king come and I'm married, I can't say that what worked for you and your husband year one is going to work for us. That may not be our thing, right?
Right.
And so we have to, my husband and I, we have to sit down and we have to write that thing out. What is it that you want to see? What are your beliefs about this? And I personally believe that all of these things need to be done prior to saying I do, because there are there are some things, that some beliefs that we may have that somebody may not be willing to bend on. And so I think it's a setup for failure when we
Yeah,
step in and then we say, okay, now let's see if we're compatible.
that's true.
It's like that's
Mhm.
so backwards. But you said something, and I wanted to touch on it. You said you have your two sons and then you have your daughter, and you said you speak about it, but more so to your daughter. I want to know what, you probably haven't, or maybe you have given this some thought. Like, but what is that? What is that about? I have all girls, so my talk is the same, right? I don't have the I tell my girls this, I tell my boys that. When, because I feel like, not I feel like, I know that it's equally important, of course. Is it just because you know that the boys got it, or that girl is more we are the apple of God's eye. We want to protect, we want to keep, we want to make sure that she don't let anyone get over on her, that she is wise, with her
Mhm.
decision making, not only for the man, but I mean for allowing a man to step into her life, but her decision making for herself. So I know you do, but I'm just gonna ask you. You do believe that it's just as important, if not more so, for the man or the boy, the young man, to understand the dynamics of what it looks like to lead, to guide, to protect, and all of those things.
I absolutely do. I feel like my boys both have had a good example, because one of the things about my husband, I don't know, I want to call him old school because it shouldn't be old school. It should just be how things are. Um, he's always said to my our sons and even to my daughter, he's like, you never see me curse your mom. You never see me do any of that. And I don't want to ever see you do something like that. And I think that's one of the things um, that we try to not only teach, but we also try to make that as part of the example in our relationship. Now, I may go harder on my daughter because we're both female,
Yeah.
and I understand what heartbreaks feel, what it feels like.
Yeah.
And even though I know my son, who's older and he's kind of gone through a couple of relationships, I sometimes I'm saying to him, I want to make sure you're not taking advantage of the partner you have.
Yeah.
You treat her well.
Yeah.
How did that go down? And that could be because I'm coming from a perspective of um, of the feminine or the female side. But for my daughter, I do try to emphasize to her that um, someone's going to come and they're going to find you and they're going to love you for who you are.
Mhm.
My daughter is a full figured girl. She has her own platform. She's an influencer, and she talks about a lot about body image. And she talks whether your body image is being plus size or smaller, that you should be accepted for who you are. And so with that, sometimes we know that that doesn't always happen in relationships, You're not always accepted for just who you are. And that goes
Yeah.
back to the counseling part. But so I don't know if I go harder on her because of that. I just want whoever finds her to treat her well, and for her to know that yes, the vows are so important,
Yeah.
and entering into this and entering to a relationship. I think you said it, I've said it, commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that eros love
Mm-hmm.
is not going to be there, because
Right.
when you talk about sickness and health, I mean, when I got sick, I walked on a cane for months. I drug my leg. I had to drag my leg when I walked. That's not pretty,
Right.
and it's not romantic. There are times where I don't feel always romantic. Sometimes when I look at my spouse, and I thank God that the effect of the stroke that he had did not cause his arm to be halted, or but it slowed him down. It did some
Yeah.
things to some of his, his facial muscles, and are more relaxed. And sometimes you got to understand, go look beyond. It's going to go beyond the physical.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's got to be about the heart and the mind of the person that you're with. And you got to also sometimes understand that when someone is not in the best health, their attitude sometimes is not what you may want to be around. And
Yeah.
I know I had a stinky attitude when I was sick. I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
um and so these are things I think I try to say to both of,
Yeah.
I say both. I have a stepson, so he's not always in my house, but to
Mm-hmm.
the children, I try to say it's about commitment. When you don't feel that romantic love, there should be a love that says, I'm committed to you because I said I do, in sickness and in health.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. I definitely agree that, the outer appearance is not always going to be there. And that's not what God connected us on anyway. When
Hmm.
he created Eve from Adam, he didn't take a piece of his skin. He didn't take his ear. He didn't take he didn't pluck his hair. He put him into a deep sleep, and he went within, right? And he got something from within. And that's what he created this woman with. And so
Hmm.
we have to understand that when we're looking at the butt and the thighs or the chest and the quads and all of those things, that there's a very high likelihood that those things are no longer going to be by way of just getting lazy, or just by way of things just changing. Because even when we do nothing, things change, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to understand the importance of, as you said, staying committed to the commitment. So the question would be, well, what did you commit to? Did you commit to that pretty smile? Did you
Hmm.
commit to the money? Did you commit to, just the conversation? What did you commit to?
Right.
Because if you committed to something so surface, that when the surface begins to die down, the commitment is no longer required to be there. If
Right.
I'm saying I do to your looks and your looks are going away, I'm no longer required to be there. If I said I do because of the amount of money that you bring into the home and the money is gone, I'm no longer required. The requirements change, right? But when we are committed to what God said we should be committing to,
Hmm.
that foundation, as I go back to just the foundation of what marriage truly is, that's never going to change. The word is going to be the same. God is going to be the same today, tomorrow, forevermore. That's never going to change. So when we are here to serve, right, serve and not be served, then
Hmm.
we will recognize, notice how our marriage will continue to grow and go to different levels, right?
Hmm.
On purpose, because we're doing it with intent so that we
Right.
can have an effective marriage. You talked about when you were at the workshop and you spoke, you said in that workshop you were sitting, and I can imagine just listening to everyone speak and tell their story, and even after sharing yours, because sometimes it take us talking about our own selves, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to look in the mirror and not out the window so that we can
Right.
see, okay, where am I messing up at, or where am I tripping, or
Hmm.
where can I be better? You said in that workshop, and you said, I got to do better. I have to do better, right?
Hmm.
You called yourself to the table. And
Yes.
I want to know, like, doing better, How hard or how easy was that?
Well, I'm gonna say um, it's both. Easy because you do love a person. You do love. I love my husband. I absolutely, and I know that he loves me. Um, the hard part is dealing with me every day, dealing with Lisa and saying, "Now you know you acting up," and knowing that um, I think I shared at that time that my compassion
Mm-hmm.
wasn't where it needed to be. I didn't feel like I was reciprocal. The compassion that my I was shown by my husband when I was sick, I wasn't giving that same compassion. Sometimes, even right now, because like I said, he's slowed down quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we'll be out and maybe we'll take a trip and walking. I'm better now, so I'm walking. I'm good, and I'll realize I'm out. You're walking too fast. Slow down. And so just little things like that we have to remember because I said, when I was on that cane, he was making sure that I was able to stay in step with him. And
Yes.
so it's been a couple of years and I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
I'll just be honest. I'm still working on it because there are sometimes I'll sit and I don't have to say that when someone does get sick, sometimes that means that you lose an income. So that goes into another vow. And
Yes.
so sometimes there are times where I'm like, we can't do this and it's not because it's not because of the sickness, it's just because maybe financially we're a little tighter than we had have been before.
Yeah.
But what and all that, God God opens up doors. I mean, little something my kids might say, let's do this, we're going to take care of it, whatever. But I guess in that journey, in that process, I'm still on it. And I think really it's a daily, it's a daily coming to terms or daily reckoning
Mm-hmm.
with yourself saying, this is how the day going to be, or is this how the day going to, is this is how it's going to be.
Right.
So I'm trying to practice the compassion that I preach to other people. So
Absolutely. You said that you are still working on it, and I want to commend you because you are still working on it. You could have given up, you could have stopped, right? And you said it's a journey, and the dictionary says that journey is an act of traveling from one place to another. And
mm,
so, if we are always on that journey of being a better me, right? Then we are in a good place. We are in a good place. Nothing and no one is perfect. So you may be stronger in one area and not as strong in the other area. But here's the thing: when we are wise enough to see the work that needs to be done, right? When there's wisdom, and we have to have wisdom in marriage. When you're wise enough to see, okay, I need to pick this up, and those are wise comments that you just made. Okay, there's work that I need to do, and I still have work to do, right? I have not
mm,
arrived just because it was 2016, but I'm better than I was then, right? And when we are intentional about it, when we are doing something, as you said, walking, you doing your regular walk speed, and you're like, oh, let me slow down. That's because you've been intentional about being a better Lisa. You've been intentional about being a better wife. You've been intentional about being considerate, being concerned.
mm.
And so the world would say that the man is usually the one with the least amount of compassion. And you're saying, nah, it was me.
It was
So he
me.
was the example, he was the
Mm,
leader, he was the head. He showed you what it was supposed to be, and it could have been just a natural thing for him, but at the same time he showed you. And
yeah.
so that's why I always say that he makes sure that we are with someone that is going to be an asset to us.
Mhm.
We
Right.
have to be an asset to them. And so just because in that particular compartment, he may be the stronger vessel, there are some other compartments where you're the stronger vessel, right? So and I don't like to use the word balance, but you guys are in harmony, right? So
Yes.
I always say that harmony, we can all do it together and it works, right? You have your soprano, you have your alto, and you have your tenor. They are all singing the same song and sometimes different words in this song, and it sounds good. But when
Yes.
we're trying to balance things, we're like, okay, I got to give this 100% over here and 100 over there. Somebody is going to miss a percentage, right? So I love to use the term harmony more than I will balance. And so I thank you for sharing all of that. I wanted to ask you about, and I wrote this down. Snap. I wanted to ask you about, so when we look at, as you see on the screen, it says through sickness and in health. When we look at those words, well, when I looked at it today, and just today, to be honest with you, today is like something popped out to me. And I looked at through and in. And I
Mm.
said, when we talk about sickness,
Mm-hmm.
it's a heavy, it's not such a happy conversation. It's not something that we're ran to talk about, like, girl, let me tell you, my husband is sick, or that's not something that we do. But if he were healed the way we think he should be healed, because here's the thing, he's right where he's supposed to be, because God says, because he's right here, I get to hear from you a little bit more often. Because he's
Yes.
right here, our conversations are a little different, right? Because he's right here, you are working more on you because you're being considerate of where you need to be in order for
Mm-hmm.
you to, enhance in that area. But when we think about the word through is going, it's moving from one place to the other. When we are
Mm-hmm.
in it, we are in that thing, right? And so the society say, when it's healthy, you stay right there. But when it's sick, get through it. Just hurry up and go. Move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy for us to throw in the towel and to look at life like that. Just get through it when it doesn't feel good. Just get through it when it's not the way it was when we first started. Just get through it. Just go. Hurry up. We want to rush through this thing. And God is saying, no, no, no. It's a journey. It's a process. There's some things in this, right?
Yes.
While you're here. I want you to be in the sickness too. Be
Yes.
in it. Be committed to it. I want you
Right.
to give it as much attention as you do when he or she is healthy. So
Mm-hmm.
when I look at those words, through and sickness and in health, I'm like, God, Lord, it's the play on words.
Wow. Yes.
The play on words can be amazing. And I know it all comes with, me, for me, it comes with me just wanting, I tell you, Lisa, I want to know so much more about God as it
Yes.
relates to just God in general. But right now, because of what I'm doing, I want to know so much more about him in relationships,
Yes.
in marriage, and I want to know it for myself before I step into that thing, right? I want him to teach me by way of having it with him. And that's what I tell the singles. You are already a wife. God is your husband. He's our husband. You're already a wife. He's teaching you how to serve. He's teaching you how to honor. He's teaching you how to respect and love and all those things that he is requiring of us as his wife, his as in that
Right.
man that he's preparing for us. And
Right.
so, yeah, there are going to be some things that we're only going to experience as a result of being a wife or as a result of being a husband, but God got us in that as well. So in this singleness, for me, in my singleness, I'm preparing. I'm preparing for, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was married for
Mhm.
14 years. I was in that relationship for 18 years. And as you did, I looked in the mirror. I looked in the mirror years after he and I broke up, the separation, and now the divorce. I look in the mirror and I say to myself, I've said to myself, you could have done better in this area and in that area. You could have served a little more over here. You could have loved a little more over there. You could have just shut your mouth a little bit
Yeah.
more over there. You didn't have to do all of the comparing to, how your dad was. So there's a lot of things that even in this, that I've learned. And I'm grateful that God gave me the opportunity to learn those lessons, because going into my marriage, going into, my next marriage, and what I would say my final marriage, I'm going to know I won't make those mistakes anymore. I'm going to probably bump my head somewhere, But those are going to be the things that when I see it, I'll be like, okay, Tam, you're doing that thing again, right?
Yeah.
So if you can leave our viewers with anything as it relates to this piece of the vow through sickness and in health, or just in general, anything that you would like to share, what would it be? Let's say if it's for a single person or for someone that's already married, what would be something that you could give us?
Well, I think the last time I said to put God in your marriage early. And someone that may have already been married or maybe in this already, put God in your marriage more.
Mm.
The more I think you come together in a place of worship, you it's just you're open, and that it's the Bible talks about, you can only worship God in spirit and truth, and when you're in that kind of place, that's the real you. And if you can have that together, then that's just, it's more, you're having God in the center, and there you are right there with each other, with God. So I think that would be my advice. If you've been in it a while, get God, put more of him in it. It's nothing like praying with a spouse. I have a friend whose husband is a pastor, and she says, what turns me on is when the man is doing the thing what he needs to do for God. And so whether that's the case or not, I think the more we come together in the Lord, I think the closer we'll become with each other, because we have to be in our own true self.
Absolutely, I agree. And I thank you for those words of encouragement, because that's exactly what it is. That is encouraging to someone. And even to those that may not be, may not have such a close knit relationship with God. I always say this, things like this is representing and representing God. So we are representing God to maybe those who do not believe, but we are representing God to those who have forgotten about God. Those are, we're in this pandemic. Some folks haven't been to church since day one of the pandemic. I mean, not online, not in the building. And so you have to feed the muscle. You have to strengthen all of the muscles, not only the physical muscle, but the spiritual muscle as well. Amen. And so for those of us, especially marriages, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy, and he understands the power in numbers. And he knows that if I can separate these two, this home, if I can divide this home, then I'm on. Like I'm good. Because if I can have her talk about him over there with him, and if I can have him talk about her over there with her, bam, voila, I did my job, right? And so now I have 4 people. Not only do I have that household, I have 4 people. And then now they are going to go and affect the others that are out there, and it just keep growing. But how much powerful can that be if we turn that thing around and say we're going to allow God to be the center, and then these 2 people, this husband and this wife, will talk to another couple and say and share, hey, this is how we stay strong, and then that couple talk to another couple, and the ball just keeps rolling. So we have to make our choice. We have to make decisions on how we're going to live as individuals and how we're going to live as a husband or as a wife. So Lisa, again, I say thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it once again, because you are being vulnerable. You are putting you out there. You are putting your husband out there. And I know that can be a lot. And so I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. Again, like I said, your yes is not to me. Your yes is to your commitment. And that alone is going to get you blessed. So again, I say thank you to all of the viewers. For those of you who are going to come back for the replay, let us know what you think. Share your comments. Share this video. I love you, Lisa, and we will be talking soon.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Good night, you guys.